Hello and welcome to the Credit Union Connection. I am your host, Sarah Snell Cooke. I am here today with Jake Tyler, who I am told is Glia's AI guy. Is that true?
I am an AI guy, I guess. Many AI guys at Glia and girls. It's certainly an exciting place to be at the moment.
Yeah. So give us a little background on what you do at Glia.
Yeah, sure thing. So I came to Glia through a bit of a interesting journey. So I started a company that built AI virtual assistants for banks and credit unions called FinAI. I was one of the founders and the CEO of that company. And we were doing this way before AI was cool. And way before it worked that well as well. Um, and we battled it out there for 8 years or so, and it got a lot better as we were building that product. And in 2022, we sold our company to Glia. And we did that because, and then at Glia, I still work on AI, so that's why I'm the AI guy. And I work on it with lots of other AI guys and girls who part of whom came from my company and part of whom we've sort of grown into as part of Glia. So that's where we came from. Glia is a platform that is reimagining how credit unions connect with their members. You can think of Glia as an interaction management platform. So however your members want to interact with you, whether they're chatting in digital banking, whether they're calling up and chatting to the call center or texting in, that can all be go through Glia, and it can be handled by a human or an AI. And it all, so some of the magic of Glia is being able to really seamlessly move between channels and between AI and humans. And so that's how we fit into the bigger Glia picture here.
Oh, nice. Um, yeah, so let's talk a little bit about let's go head on into one of the bigger questions.
I
Uh,
love it. This is good. Oh, this is a great tee up.
No, I'll start out little and then go to the bigger ones. All right. So, what are some of the practical applications of AI? Because you hear credit union executives and board members running around saying we need AI. So, what are the practical applications of it? And explain how that is used and how it could work to modernize the call center, for example, like you're doing.
Yeah, so let's, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on every application of AI, so I'll keep it narrowly focused on what we spend our time doing here at Glia, which is how does it impact frontline teams? How
Hmm.
does it impact member interactions? And so there you can, there's sort of three places where we're deploying AI today at some scale and where we think there's huge opportunity as well. The first is automating member interactions. So whether a member calls up, they're chatting in digital banking, if they have a sort of simple routine inquiry, which is probably most inquiries you're getting, we can understand what they're asking and either automate that, like help them self-serve, or get them to the right agent. Then the second is introducing new AI tools and capabilities for agents. So that's augmenting your frontline team members with AI. So that might be something simple like summarizing an interaction whenever a transfer is made. So something pretty tactical.
Hmm.
To at the end of every interaction or call, you have to do post-call work, like write up what was the call about. We can automate that. And so there's a lot of like very tactical applications of AI, new generative AI tools that combined can really streamline agent workflows. And then so that's member AI, agent AI, and then the third would be AI for managers. So, tools that will help you do quality assurance, tools that will help you provide better coaching to your agents, tools that will help you onboard. Everybody's struggling to hire frontline team members at the moment and train them up. Churn is a big issue. So tools that can help you train online team members and make speed up the time for a new team member to become a great team member.
Hmm.
We think there's when we're looking at what we do for customers, there's three big areas, and there's huge opportunity in all three of them at the moment. So we're building tons of product across all three of those.
Yeah, as far as transcribing those phone calls, oh, I haven't found a good one yet for the meetings, but
Yeah, look, transcription is hard, even for a human to do with accents and background and someone yelling at their cat and stuff like that. The question is, because we do this in production, just to go down this transcription rabbit hole here for a second. But the the question is, does it need to be perfect or does it need to be good enough to provide some useful like quality control assurance?
Hmm.
And so, we're transcribing calls in real time, and then we're able to do that post-call work. We're able to have an assistant that can, listen to the call and then prompt agents. So like, hey, this member seems frustrated. Be careful. Or like, hey, here's our this they're trying to order a new check. Here's how they order a new check. So there's all sorts of ways that you can use that, and you don't actually need transcription to be perfect. Although there is obvious, every time you look at transcription, you'll undoubtedly see like some insane, bizarre thing that it's said.
Yeah,
Uh,
well,
yeah.
in what I do, a lot of times credit unions ends up being transcribed as Koreans, and so
Mm,
it's just
yeah.
one of those things that it catches it up. But so one of the things that you are or in Glia are very big on, and I don't want to speak for you, but is the responsible use of AI. So what is responsible AI?
Yeah, well, so we've sort of got right into this, but the reason we're here talking is because AI is this really big technology platform shift that's happening, and it will be a very significant platform change. So everybody wants AI. We will all need AI. AI will significantly change how members interact with credit unions and how frontline teams at credit unions do work. So there's big changes underway. The challenge is it is a little bit like cowboy country out there at the moment. You're still early on in the market. You don't know exactly what's going to work. Generative AI has all these new risks. Like if you've used Chat GPT, it just makes stuff up sometimes. And it's hard to tell if it's making stuff up unless you're an expert. Where exactly is your data going all the time with these different services? Sometimes you'll have, so if you're experimenting yourself, there are things to consider. You might have vendors who have new AI tools, but then like, what are they using in the background? Where's that data going?
Hmm.
So we are a little bit in the Wild West, and like a Wild West times like this crazy hype party, I guess, is like the sort of thing that's going on. So responsible AI, um, as credit unions, we at Glia, we only serve banks and credit unions.
Hmm.
So we have 300 plus credit union customers. We deeply understand the industry, and we know that, while we are excited about technology and excited about AI, we also don't want to introduce a ton of extra new risk, and we want to be very careful about data. And we don't want to make up an interest rate when we tell the member what the interest rate is, right? Like these things,
Hmm.
it's not creative writing. These things need to be right. Um, so for when we think about responsible AI, we want AI, but we want responsible AI. That means it's safe. First and foremost, your data is safe, where it's not being shared somewhere that you wouldn't want it to be shared. You're not giving away PII. Also, it is turnkey, so it doesn't take a huge amount of time to build. It's not a big professional services project. It is a product that you can turn on and that works. And it delivers proven results. So AI is solving a real problem, not just a cool demo.
Hmm.
And again, because we just work with credit unions, we can be very focused on really understanding those customers and those problems and building tools using this technology to solve them.
Hmm. And so, as you mentioned, solving real life problems, what sort of, or do you have any data on like what credit unions are saving as far as in time or in headcount or whatever, however they want to measure that?
Yeah, I'll give you. I mean, it's obviously very dependent on one credit union to the next, but I'll give you some data points on some of the capabilities we have in the market today that are being used. So one is just on the member automation side. So that was the core of the business that I started and sold to Glia. We call that our Glia virtual assistant now. And so that is, answering calls, it's answering chats in digital banking, and it's automating those simple inquiries. And typically we'll automate, 50 to 60% of inquiries. So a pretty significant impact. Um, uh, a little bit less in the phone because people tend to hit zero and go straight to a human in the phone a little bit more. But still, if you're getting 10,000 calls a month, that's a significant
Mm-hmm.
impact. And importantly, you're not just having an AI that's getting in the way. If you want to chat to a human, you can just chat to a human straight away. So it's just
Mhm.
there to help if it can and get you to a human if that's the best path. And then on the agent side, what we've seen is that there tends to be like more things that we can do to help, but each of them has less sort of individual value, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So one example of just like a very clean time saver is doing this post-call wrap-up work. So
Mhm.
if you're an agent, you get a call. At the end of the call, you hang up. You have to answer a few questions about what that call was about, like what topic was the member frustrated, maybe some other QA questions. Typically, agents spend around 90 seconds doing that post-call work,
Sure.
which, average call time is like 6 to 8 minutes. 90 seconds is a lot.
Hmm.
We can automate all of that
Yeah.
with AI now. If you make a transfer and you have to transfer from one agent to another, you might have to write up a summary of what the calls are. So we can automate all of that. So
Hmm.
there's just a few examples of time savers. I think what we found more than saving time, which to be honest was my going in assumption of like where the value was going to be. I
Hmm.
think people have found a lot more value in being able to like have more personalized conversations. So take the transfer summary one. The value is not in saving time. It's in when you pick up, if a call's been transferred. So when you pick up the call, you don't have to say, "Hi there, how can I help you?" You can just say, "Hi, like I read the transfer summary. I already know what the call's about. Hi there, I see you're having an issue with your credit card. Let me look into that." And so
Hmm.
that's been way more value in that, which is less tangible and easier to put down in simple math, but way more value in that than in the time saved.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. No, it makes sense. Um, so AI, obviously, like you said, it's kind of the Wild West. It's a double-edged sword. There's advantages. There's also a few dangers, as you mentioned. So, what is the proper balance when credit unions are considering those two sides of the coin, um, that they should keep in mind?
Yeah, so if you take, so I guess like what's irresponsible AI, if we put that hat on for a second, I think you got sort of two flavors of irresponsible AI. One is to put your head in the sand and just say, look, nothing's going on here. This is all going to be a big nothing burger. Don't worry about it, and we're not going to do anything. I think that's very irresponsible as well because the world is changing. I think the second flavor of irresponsible AI is to like rush into it, do things that are untested, put those things into production. I mean, it's great to experiment, but
Hmm.
or work with partners who are doing things that are untested, and whether you're building yourself or you're experimenting with new partners, it's just about doing that in a responsible way. So
Hmm.
I think they're the two main flavors of irresponsible AI that we see, probably with like equal balance, to be
Hmm.
honest.
Hmm.
And so responsible AI is trying to like um, thread the needle there between those. So we want to change, we realize we need to change, but we also need to focus on doing things that work, and we need to focus on doing things properly so that it's a good experience for members and it's safe and secure and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, there have been a number of concerns about, FCRA issues
Yeah.
and other ways that Ukrainians could get into trouble with AI. So yeah, very important. Like, I guess it's just I don't want to say it's general vendor management, but it's just understanding really what you're getting into and who you're partnering with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like particular challenge with AI is that you use Chat GPT and and you sort of think it's magic and it feels human, and so you're like, oh, you just like carry it a little bit further and be like, oh, it must be easy to do this. And so I think what we see is people tend to get into a bit of like see a great demo and extrapolate that out further than it should go, or think that it's easy. If they see a demo and like, I'll just build this myself, or you just plug it in and it'll work like that. And actually, I think the challenge with a lot of AI projects is that like getting 80% of their way there can be quite straightforward, but man, getting the rest of the 20% is super hard. And that's where like all the edge cases are, where all the like importance and value is. So um, it's almost like it is a double-edged sword with the technology. It's like conversational, it feels human, but then just like we do with pets, we think it's, we just ascribe human qualities to it and think it can
Mhm.
do things like humans can do. So So that's sort of the double edge of that thing.
Yeah, no, I busted my intern last summer using Chat GPT to write stuff. I was like, "No, you're
Yeah,
supposed to be learning this first.
yeah, yeah.
You got to learn
Well,
the fundamentals before you become a Chat GPT prompt writer or whatever."
that's that's right. Yeah, but it is it is important to be learning though. That is, I think, for sure, and experimenting,
Right.
but not going too crazy with it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what are some of you mentioned the two types of irresponsible AI, and one of them being putting your head in the sand. What are some of the most common objections that you might hear from banks and credit unions, and how do you quell those?
Yeah, I think, well, like, just to segue off the last point, a common one is like, I'll just get this myself. I'll plug in ChatGPT or some similar system, and it's easy, right? Like, it's a very powerful system. The AI will handle it all. And having built products like this for a long, and maybe that'll happen at some stage. I don't know. It is not the case where that happens today. It's like it's a lot of work to get it from to get it actually working and solving problems in the real world. There's a lot of complexity there. So that's one that like I'll just DIY it myself type
Mhm.
approach. The second like very, very valid concern is is where's this data going? Like, how do I know this is safe and secure? What's the LLM you're using underneath the hood? Where does what's the data flow?
Mhm.
Like very, very valid like area to dig into, I think. And
Yeah.
if you're not digging in there, like you totally should. I mean that. And then the third is like, is this really solving a problem? Does it work? Like, because generative AI does make stuff up occasionally. Like, doesn't matter what sort of guardrail you put on it today, there is some degree of hallucination. And so, like, will I accept that for this particular use case? In our case, we don't generate answers and serve them up directly to members. We would only ever use generative AI for internal facing use
Mhm.
cases. So there's always a human in the loop before an answer is sent out. And even then, we're very careful about how we use generative responses. Um, is it working? Is it solving a real problem? You know, as another example, we we've been experimenting with all sorts of things, and one of the things we tested was a sort of generative AI assistant for agents. So it
Mhm.
would like read a knowledge base and it would suggest answers on the fly to agents. And but some, it did have some hallucination in it.
Mhm.
And what we found was actually like because it wasn't right all the time, agents had to double check everything we said, and
Mhm.
it wasn't saving any time at all. It was adding time. So I think you've got to like it can look really cool, but is it really making things easier for people, or are you just adding noise,
And that's not, I mean, to your point, a lot of times it's like CEOs or VPs or whoever making those decisions at the top, and they aren't the ones that are going to be playing around in it. So.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time it is like
Mhm.
chairman has seen something, found ChatGPT finally, and is like sends it over to everybody and it's like, check this thing out, let's do it. Um, and yeah, I mean, obviously it's a lot of work to go from that to something that solves a real problem, but getting into the weeds on those workflows and making sure you're really saving time and not adding complexity and time is all the hard stuff and is the valuable stuff as well.
Yeah. And so what's the future of AI look like, and specifically for financial institutions?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at how members interact with credit unions, it hasn't really changed dramatically in the last couple of decades. Like maybe we do it in digital banking now, but mostly it's phone calls
Hmm.
and the systems and mostly it's talking to humans. And if there is an automation system involved, it's a touchtone IVR. And that touchtone IVR was built in the 90s. I mean, it hasn't changed since then. And even the telephony system you're using, it's basically the same thing. I mean, it's moved from on-prem to the cloud, but it's still like it's doing the same thing. It's not very well synced up with what's in digital bank. So, we're moving from a world where that whole operation hasn't really changed dramatically in a few decades, and this wave of technology is going to completely change it. Like you just like the who you hire, how many people you hire, how people interact, where they're interacting, that whole technology suite, those frontline teams, the size of those teams, the work that they're doing, the skill set you need, that's all going to change.
Yeah, the
This
composition.
is, this is probably Jake's personal view more than Glia's personal view at this stage. But that's that, from what I'm seeing, that's what I think will happen. Like we are coming into a decade of meaningful change from a period where most contact center managers haven't really seen that much dramatic change in the way they interact with members.
And that really raises the HR issue, right? Like who's gonna stay, who's gonna go because they just can't adapt or whatever. So I think that yeah, there's a lot of really interesting implications, I think, for that.
Yeah, I tend to I mean, the whole like, is AI coming for our jobs thing, I tend to think is like is not the area, like for sure it will change the jobs. Um, I tend to think as AI automates the simple things, we may actually put more of a premium on human connection,
Mm-hmm.
including, credit unions are built on human connection and being in their communities, right? So I
Yeah.
think it may play to the credit union's strengths and it will actually increase the importance of human connection and people will want to do more of it as a result. But you won't be doing simple things. And
Mm-hmm.
even when you are chatting to a human, it'll be very augmented by AI. So it'll still look and feel very different. But I personally don't think we want like we still want to talk to people. I don't think we'll if I want to check my balance, I don't need to talk to somebody. But if
Right.
there's lots of situations where I do need like some counseling as well as some information.
Yeah. No, I was
Yeah.
on the board of my credit union and I never walked in it. So I would go in and
Yeah.
nobody, they'd be, oh, you're a board member because I guess it's in my in my profile. But yeah, I mean, you just self-serve is, I think, not only do credit unions save money and time and all that usually with that, but people appreciate it too. Especially, I feel like Gen X is like, just leave me alone
Yeah.
and let me do my work.
Yeah,
Um,
I think
but yeah,
I think it'll barbell. I think you'll want to self-serve and we'll want to move lots of stuff to self-service. But then at the same time, the other side of the barbell, you'll place a much bigger premium on human connection.
No,
And
exactly. When, say if somebody's getting their first mortgage and they need to
yeah,
understand what they're getting into and that kind of stuff, it's definitely important for
totally.
people.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've gone from very small to very big picture.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, as I do with all my guests, I'm gonna give you the final word, final thoughts. What do you have to say, Jake?
Final. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing to take away is like this is going to be a big change. And we don't need to rush into it. Be careful in the way you tread into it, and walk into it. But you probably do need to start getting into it.
Mhm.
And 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 there are things to do today that work and deliver value. Talk to your team, talk to your trusted partners. Um, but I would very much encourage people to get started on the journey. And my guess is things will accelerate more than decelerate, just if you look at the pace of change over the last couple of years. So that first version of irresponsible AI where you put your head in the sand, I would counsel against that. I mean, obviously, I have a vested interest in that, but more than that, I think that we're entering a period of probably rapid change for frontline teams.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jake. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.